was looking at more antique guns in Canada. There's a newsletter, September 2022. Welcome to the fall gun season. With more great guns added, enjoy some fine examples from Smith & Wesson, Colt, Webley, and even some pieces from France, Belgium, and more. Give them a look and feel free to call with questions. These picks are just a few examples of what's new. But each one is original. Once they're bought, there is no longer that piece. It's a specific piece. Kind regards, Chris at Antique Guns Canada. I've taken a look at this Antique Guns Canada a few times. I already have a single action, but this is a really nice Smith & Wesson single action 44 Russian. Good example. It has a nice grip on it and everything. And then you got this one also interested me. It was both the 44. There's a 44 or 442 Webley double action. That's a really nice example of a double action. All here in Canada. $4,300 for this one, being that patent revolver in 44, 442, double action. So it was originally a revolver from the United Kingdom, but it can chamber a 44 round ACP centerfire, I believe. Double action. Which is it's one of the rarer to find firearms that are chambered in calibers that are readily available here in America when they come from Europe or the United Kingdom. But they do have them, and this is one example, $4,300. And this, would be considered the grandfathered in double action firearm with being the antique. Meaning that you could have rounds in it. If you could find the rounds for it, or reload the rounds for it, you could do that legally here in Canada. That could be your legal firearm without a license. Also, one here for $5,675. If you got that much money, that's a lot of money. I don't even have that much. You could get a Smith & Wesson single action 44 Russian. Single action, but what a beautiful example of a 44 Russian. 44 caliber, which is a large caliber. It's got that hinge open right there. It's got, I believe, I'm not sure how many rounds the cylinder takes. Oh, it has an auto ejection system on the cylinder. That's a big thing too. This single action 44 with the self ejection. Usually you got to knock out the cartridges individually, but once you clean this up, that's a really nice self ejection. It'll eject 644 rounds. That's a really nice single action. It's got a really beautiful hammer onto it. One of the hammers that I'm looking for, one of those thick thumb grip hammers. I'm not sure what the proper name on those hammers are, but they're a really nice hammer. I believe it being this one, it's got a big, large, strong hammer on this one, being on the Antique Guns Canada. I just had the newsletter come in on my my email, so I have the legal right to video them. But I'm not a part of Antique Guns Canada, but it's a website. It's a website. I'm signed up to the newsletter. I am an antique gun owner, though. Everybody knows. Well, if you don't, I bought a single action 32. That's all I could afford. As much as a lot of people want the 44s, the 45s, and, well, I've never seen a 50 yet come onto market, but I'm sure there is them out there. I'm sure there are. But here's a Colt single action. Learned a lot about Colt. Caliber 44. It's a really nice 44 special. That's even larger than The police carry a 38 special 9mm. So this is larger than what the police carry. It's a 44 special single action. Even though this is a single action, these Colt single actions were like something really, 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 really special. And they had these, they still do, they have these large grips on them. It's a large caliber and everything's so smooth and the trigger was so nice. And look at the hammer on it. The firing with these ones, it's something superb more than any other single action. They were famous. It was the Colt, still is the Colt single action. Antique Guns Canada, your source. Well, I never bought any from Antique Guns Canada, but they seem really good, and I got mine from Gun Post. It's October 2022, and some great Webley, Colt, Smith & Wesson, French, and other guns have arrived. RCMP, you know, the paperwork, they import them and everything legally. It's all legally imported. More fresh inventory will be added as it comes in, so bookmark the site and check back often. Oh, I remember God talking about these single actions and these other ones to be available in Canada. They always were, but nobody could afford them. And then finally, well, he was talking to me about them, about maybe one day I'd be able to get in position where I could get one. And I finally was able to afford one of my own. And I've had it for a few months now. And well, when you start to realize just how important that piece is, it's, well, that piece ain't going nowhere, and neither am I. Like just as valuable as my life is, my gun is. If I lost it, I would never be able to get another one. There's only once you buy one of these antiques, that is it. That's your antique. You can buy as many as you want or whatever, but generally you can't afford it. It's very expensive. These companies that have the large amounts, like a Chris, I know his name's Chris and everything, but he's got a lot more than the average person. Because I'm higher up than the average, being me, Stacks and Millie. So Chris he's royalty. He's like almost to the well, he's at a higher status. He's got a lot of firearms where most people can only afford one or dream to only be able to afford one, that being their firearm. With all the stockpiling and everything, a lot of people forgot about the real reason why you have a firearm. Not saying that they're stockpiling, but with a lot of people buying so many firearms that they can't even hold on to them. Well, they forgot the true reason of why you would have a firearm, and that's for self-protection or self-defense or defense of your home or hunting, all that kind of stuff. Law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. There's all different reasons why you'd have a firearm. Yeah, they're for use. That's why down in the United States, you don't have people that are enslaved and all that. That's why they've made these antiques. They're now considered grandfathered in case you got to actually use them. The reason why the RCMP changed that is in case somebody has to actually use it, because that's what they're meant to do. They're meant to be a tool to use them, just and all that. And that's why now the law has changed with the antiques to be considered prohibited, but they're considered legal under grandfathered or to buy them as antique. Basically, they consider if you buy something like one of these firearms off such a big time guy like this guy, it's considered getting grandfathered in from this guy. Whoever this guy is or whatever, he's really big in the military standpoint and all that. So if you buy one of these $5,000 guns off them, that's considered grandfathered from this person because they're so high up in the system. That's where it's gotten at this point with it or whatever. And that would be your firearm for your, there's all types of people that have firearms in Canada. Ones that have licenses and ones that don't. And this is the only legal option for ones that don't have the license. You got to pay $5,000 plus a super. But guess what? You get to live here in Canada legally with your legal firearm. You don't have to live down in the U.S. Some people, believe it or not, they would rather pay $5,000 and live here in Canada than to go down to the U.S. I love Canada. I don't want to leave. I want to be able to be safe here in Canada and have all the stuff that I have here in Canada. So they've changed it. It used to be eligible to be deemed as an antique. Now it's not only are you eligible to be deemed as an antique, you're also deemed as a grandfathered in firearm owner, meaning that you can have the cartridges in it. You can search it up. It's a whole new thing all over the on the internet with the RCMP. So I got mine. You got yours? Well, you better get a job. You better get a job. $5,000. You got to be somebody. Somebody that's working. Unless you're somebody special, or unless you're wealthy right off the bat, like you got a really wealthy family and you guys made it in some other industry and all that. Unless you're extremely wealthy or you made it yourself or something like that, you're not even going to be able to afford one of these guns, just one of these guns. So that's a good thing that not even people on ODSP. Generally, most people on ODSP, they wouldn't even be able to afford not even one of these guns. The only reason I can is because I was grandfathered in. I came from a certain family that was had a well drilling and plumbing company here in Ontario, and then they were well drilling and plumbing in Cape Coral, Florida, and Tennessee, and they bought me plane tickets here and plane tickets there, and I was able to become the person I am. Finally, at 28 years old, I buy my own, but the reason why I didn't was because the law wasn't in shape. I could have bought a firearm way earlier, but I said you need a possession acquisition license. Now, finally, in 2022, they changed the law. They just changed the law. This wasn't the law before. It was that you could have like maybe I don't know what it was, but now it is like that. They've changed the law now, where you can get one of these antiques and all that without the license. Because I had money, but I didn't even know I needed a firearm until I became certain famous. I became a certain amount of famous, and then people started like home and breaking into my house because they wanted to steal my computer. But then now they don't do it anymore. That's my legal right in Canada, is to be a citizen. Because I'm a citizen, there was some black people that aren't even supposed to be in Canada that were like threatening me, saying they were going to like break in my house if I didn't take down a certain picture. I was getting all these weird threats like, oh, because you have a certain picture that looks a certain way and you look better than me, if you don't take it down, I'm going to shoot you or something. So I started to get those threats like, oh, because I'm such a handsome Canadian and all that, stuff like that. So now I'm a firearm owner and I don't deal with those threats anymore, because if those people want to come into my house and try to kill me over something stupid, then I'm going to shoot my gun. And the RCMP have given me that permission. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're now on the side of the good people, not just the bad people here in Canada. Because everyone was saying, like, who is this albino black sheep? You know, like, is it a bison or is it an albino black sheep that you never see? Because all the criminals had guns in Canada, but none of the legal people did. Now the legal people do.